Do you recognize what this is?
It looks like a copy of a draft of the remarks for that day.
Okay. And as you can see throughout the document, there are lines crossed out. There's some words added in. Do you recognize the handwriting?
It looks like my father's handwriting.
It looks like my father's handwriting, says Ivanka Trump. And luckily for us, he writes in gigantic capital letters in Sharpie. So it's very easy for all of us to read. And so we can now see easily what President Trump insisted he would not say, what he changed in the speech that was written for him to be delivered on January 7th, the day after the U.S. Capitol attack. The draft that he was given starts, good afternoon. He cut that out. OK. Then it says, I would like to begin today by addressing, and he gets the word today out of that. OK, all fine. The draft then says he should say that he is outraged and sickened by the violence. He keeps the outrage. He drops and sickened. OK, he's just outraged, not sickened, but we're basically still afloat here with the point of the speech until this next paragraph when we start to sink. The draft says, quote, I am directing the Department of Justice to ensure all lawbreakers are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We must send a clear message, not with mercy, but with justice. Legal consequences must be swift and firm. He cuts all of that. He will not say he's directing the Justice Department to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, because, of course, he didn't do that, and he sure doesn't want to say that he's doing that. And here's the next bit that he cuts. The draft written for him for his speech on January 7th says, to those who engaged in acts of violence and destruction, quote, I want to be very clear. You do not represent me. You do not represent our movement. And if you broke the law, quote, you belong in jail. He cuts that. He won't say that the people who broke the law on January 6th attacking the Capitol belong in jail. And he won't even say that they don't represent him and they don't represent his movement. And you can see that all crossed out with his big Sharpie. And then you can see in his big all caps Sharpie handwriting where he swapped in his own language there. He did say, instead of you belong in jail, he did say, you will pay. You will pay. You will pay, by which presumably he meant you will pay for tickets into my next round of for-profit Trump rallies where I will praise you.
January 6th has become the Democrat Party's excuse to justify an unprecedented assault on American civil rights and liberties, appalling persecution of political prisoners. Another thing we'll do, and so many people have been asking me about it, if I run and if I win, we will treat those people from January 6th fairly. We will treat them fairly. And if it requires pardons, we will give them pardons because they are being treated so unfairly.
So right after the attack on the U.S. Capitol by his supporters, there's this draft speech written for him to give the next day. And he only gives it to try to avert himself being forcibly removed from office by the cabinet invoking the 25th Amendment. And that speech, the draft of that speech says, you don't represent me, you don't represent our movement, you belong in jail. He cuts all that and instead just says, you will pay. And then by the time he's talking about it at his rallies, not only is no one supposed to be paying anymore, now they're unfairly persecuted patriots who are all getting pardons if he gets to be president again. This is what happens when there are no consequences for trying to orchestrate this type of attack on the country.